I call this meeting of the Clear Creek Independent School District to order. Let the record show that it is Monday, August 22nd, and we have a quorum of board members present, and that this meeting has been duly called and that its notice has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. And I think we have Alice. Thank you, Ms. Benzai. We're here to discuss our 2022-2023 budget and proposed tax rate.
Hey, good evening. Tonight we are holding our public hearing. This is the final step in our budget adoption process. And so tonight we're going to go through the entire budget and take a look at what we got back in April, beginning of our budget process this past year. The board met and went over budget goals, assumptions, and priorities. And so I always like to mention these at the beginning of any presentation on the budget. Our budget goal set is that our budget will further CCISD's mission and strategic plan with financial integrity, maximizing benefits from available resources. And as part of that, there's assumptions that were set as well. Just to notate a few of these. Some of the important ones, they're all important, but retaining the 5% local homestead exemption, not including a golden penny or other tax rate increase, taking a step to prepare the district for loss in state funding after the 23-24 budget, some assumptions of enrollment growth and average daily attendance, that we would assume no enrollment growth above our fiscal year 22 levels, and using a realistic average daily attendance because that is a big driver of our funding. So we made a realistic assumption there. And then maintaining our fund balance, general fund balance as we have defined in our board policy. So there are some risks that go with the budget, and of course the board outlined those back in April as well. Spending required by unfunded state and federal mandates, student enrollment or ADA, that average daily attendance comes in below projections, so that is one of our biggest risks, is that second one there. Inflationary impact of fuel and property and casualty insurance and other commodities, that's something that we realized this past year was that those inflation costs. Inadequate funding to meet the needs of our students, and the potential risk of sustainability of current programs. So in looking at the budget priorities that the board set, I'm going to flip through this page because I've outlined some items that we have on this year's budget that you'll be asked to approve in a little bit. And I just wanted to point out the areas where I feel like we have met your budget priorities. So your first priority was to provide optimal and targeted levels of funding and staffing for improved student achievement to meet the goals in the strategic plan and address learning gaps from COVID-19. So in looking at our general fund budget, it does focus on instructional services this year. We have 64% of our budget that will be expended on direct classroom instruction and instructional resources. We also will expend 11% on student support services, including counseling, health services, and student transportation. Another bullet further down is that almost 90% of our total budget is for employee staffing and benefit. And I think if you look statewide, you'll see that that percentage is a very large percentage. We're in a service, and our staff, our employees the cost of those make up the biggest part of our budget. Only 2% of our budget is dedicated to district-level general administration. The second bullet is that our budget has been created in conjunction with the federal ESSER funds to optimize instructional dollars. So we received over $36 million to be used over 3 years last year. We do have $1.3 million of that allocated in this coming year and next year's ESSER budget for student intervention and tutoring. We also have funding allocated in our ESSER funds to provide professional learning to improve that first-time instruction. Our staffing has been adjusted in this budget after analyzing student-teacher ratios. There is an elimination of 65 core teaching units. some world cultures teaching units, and some visual and performing arts teaching units. We did add units this year in various areas, including advanced academics, career and technology, early learning, leadership development corps, and special education. Another budget priority you had was to administer competitive salaries, stipends, and benefits for all employees. So this budget does include a 2% cost of living adjustment for our professional staff and a 3% for our paraprofessional and auxiliary staff. We also have some targeted market adjustments for certain positions within the district, and you approved those back in July when you approved the compensation plan. Our teachers will see salary increases at certain milestone levels of experience from anywhere from 6.02 to 7.36%. We also are happy that we are not having to make any increases in our benefits to our benefit rates for our employees this year. We actually received a reduction in premiums as a reminder from TRS, and so we passed that full savings on to our employees. So most of our employees will see reductions in their health premiums this year. We also, your priority to continue to sufficiently fund our Safe and Secures program, including student support and counseling services. We did meet that priority. We have federal ESSER funds outlined for social workers to meet the needs of our students, families, and staff. We also have funding provided for 5 additional school liaison officers to increase our daily presence at elementary campuses. And also, we're maintaining the funding that we put in place in fiscal year 19 for additional SLO officers and student support counselors. Your priority to maintain designated disaster recovery reserves and continue our capital and contingency reserves consistent with other priorities. The fiscal year 22 general fund balance does exceed 2 months of operating expenses. We have a healthy fund balance in the general fund. We will be utilizing capital and contingency funds for this budget, no more than 20%. So we will, as we go through the year, we'll have a better idea of how much we'll need. We do have funds set aside in this budget to transfer in from capital and contingency. And then finally, leveraging excess reserves and existing funds to meet our current budget challenges. We are continuing to utilize our federal ESSER funds to provide for student intervention and instructional needs and to offset some general fund expenditures due to the losses that we've seen within the general fund. I wanted to highlight our administrative cost ratio. We do have a consistently low ratio. We have been below 5% for 15 straight years, so you'll see we're budgeted down in fiscal year 23 to have a 4.62% administrative cost ratio. Those are based on our budgeted numbers. Looking at our tax rate for the coming year, tonight you'll be approving the budgets. The actual tax rate will be approved in September, but the tax rate that is built into this budget is reduced by 5.5 cents, 5.51 cents. The maintenance and operations tax rate is reduced by 4.51 cents. When you look at that over 6 years, that's a total of 19.5 cents on the maintenance and operations side. The debt service part of our tax rate is this budget is built on a 1 cent decrease, and that would be a decrease of over 8 cents over the past 6 years. So just a snapshot picture of our general fund revenue. You'll see that our revenue actually is $4.5 million less than our budgeted revenue last year. And you can see our local and intermediate revenues did increase, but you'll see that state program revenue line is where you'll see the largest decrease in revenue. And we'll talk about that in one moment. I've outlined some of the changes in the various revenue areas. So our operating revenues, again, decreased by $4.5 million. Some of the largest increases on our local revenue side is mainly due to our property value growth that we've seen in the district. Our tax collections are estimated to increase by about $2.4 million, resulting from that property value growth. The state does limit us to 2.5% value growth, and so that is why we brought our tax rate down to the 0.8446 because the state mandates that particular tax rate when you have that value growth. We also see an increase in our interest earnings this year. Our interest rates on our investments are rising, so we've brought that revenue up. And also, we have a 313 agreement with Novialis Holdings, and that is projected to bring in additional revenue over last year as well. And then we had various decreases in our revenue, decreased tax collections. When you have large property value increases, we do see more protests from prior year values, and so we actually have to refund taxpayers when those values change from prior years. Looking at state revenue, we have a decline of $21.2 million. That's made up of various things, but the largest reason is due to that property value growth that we see and also the decreased enrollment, which leads to a decreased average daily attendance. We also, in prior years, would receive funds from property value audits. Last year, we had budgeted $3.5 million, and that's a one-time revenue that we'll see there, so we will not see that in the coming year. Federal program revenue increases. We will receive additional funds and indirect costs from revenue from our ESSER grant and also from SHARS, or our state health and related service reimbursements. And finally, you'll see a line item in our budget for other revenues, other resources. This is where you'll see the transfer in from the capital and contingency fund of $9.2 million, and that is less than 20% of our capital and contingency fund, which is a percentage that you outlined. We also have some transfers in from our internal service fund and special revenue funds. So just a look, I wanted to show on a chart what over the past several years what's happened with our revenue. You'll see that our local revenue, our tax dollars, used to make up about 59.6% of our budget. That number has increased to about 71%. So our current general fund budget is mainly funded through property taxes, and you can see the orange line represents what the state's responsibility is, and that has declined over the years as the local revenue goes up, the state revenue goes down. Looking at our expenditures, I wanted to outline some of the major factors that went into building this year's budget. So our expenditures also declined by $4.5 million. We did have several additions, though, that we are looking at this year. So, of course, the largest one was our salary increase that was approved in July of $6.8 million. We also saw a large increase in our property and casualty insurance. We also have those market compensation adjustments and our substitute pay scale increase account for about $1.1 million in increased costs. And then the transportation fuel rises that we've seen and inflationary increases in just all of our supplies come to about $1.1 million. And then the other departmental increases and the additional SLO officers accounted for part of that increase as well. On the other side, we were able to reduce some of our educational and operational expenses by $11.7 million. If you recall, we discussed the calendar change for the fiscal year 23-24 school year calendar, moving the way the days lie in August. That will result in a payroll accrual reduction, which will it's a one-time reduction in our expenses of $6.8 million. Our staffing reductions were $4.8 million. We were able to reclassify some expenditures to our ESSER grant, and we also had a reduction in our some TRS on behalf payments. So this slide just outlines all of those things that I just spoke about, and you can see how we've gone from $371 million expenditure budget down to $366 million in expenditures. You have several factors that have increased our budget, but we've found ways to decrease our expenditures as well to bring that down. One of the things I like to look at every year, and I think our taxpayers like to look at, is how each dollar is spent in our general fund and CCISD. And so you can see the largest share of our budget, 63 cents out of every dollar, is for direct instruction in the classroom. And 1 cent is for instructional resources, which are also in the campus, in the school. And then that curriculum and staff development of 2 cents. So that's about 66 cents of every tax dollar goes into the campus instruction, instructional resources, and staff development. The second largest piece of that is our plant maintenance, so our custodial, our utilities, that's about 7 cents of every dollar. And then our next largest is our school administration, which is 6 cents. So that's would be our campus principals, our assistant principals, deans, just the office staff in each campus. So I wanted to include some information as well about our staffing modifications that we've made this year. So every spring, early in the spring, the Human Resources Department meets with the campus principals and to look at what their projections are for enrollment in the next year, what their teaching units are, and at those meetings, they determine how many, if they need to add positions or decrease positions. So this year, we did see several reductions based on those staffing reviews, and the total reductions total 76 and a half units. And then we've also, as I mentioned earlier, did have some staffing additions that we've made as well. So that brings the net staffing changes down to 70.5. We are still utilizing our ESSER grant funds to fund about 25 positions, and those will be funded for the next 2 years out of ESSER. This is a chart I put together just looking back at our staffing changes we've had and a little bit of a history of what we've done. If you recall, back in 2011-12, we had several staffing reductions across various different departments. The blue represents actual classroom teachers and the changes there. So you can see I've also included our enrollment, which back in 2011-12 was right at around 39,000. We're looking at about 40,800 now. So over the years, we have most of our additions have been in the area of classroom teachers. We did have some campus support and instructional resource large increases as well. Most of those are our paraprofessionals that we add to our special needs and campuses, paraprofessional aides that we have. We also have added over the years the support counselors. And we have a new campus during this time frame, which was Campbell Elementary, that accounted for some of these increases as well. So you'll see we really reached our peak enrollment in 2019-20 at 42,388 students. In 2021, we continue to add positions, I think not knowing the significant drop that we would have the post-pandemic. Last year, we made very minor changes to our staffing. I believe the board approved 4.4 units last year. We knew that there were areas that had some low ratios, but at the time, we felt that those students would probably return. And so we made very few changes last year. But this year, you will see, as you see, the staffing reductions were put into place for those, based on that analysis of student-teacher ratios. Moving on to compensation, you've seen this chart several times. This is a teacher salary plan that was approved as part of the compensation package, and just wanted to include this in the presentation for the budget to show the starting teacher salary of $60,000 up from $58,000. And then just showing again where those milestone years of experiences, where those teachers will receive anywhere between 6.02 and 7.36% salary increase. Again, our benefit plan, our contributions to the medical plan, that's a big part of our budget. We're keeping those the same this year. And the employees will actually see the premium savings coming from what TRS has provided. And most of our employees, again, will see, if you look at the chart, about 1,800 employees will see about an average annual savings of $264. The ones that will see a bigger savings are the ones that have that employee family coverage where the premiums are much higher. So there were some of those that you can see will see a decrease of about $1,644, and those are probably folks that are on the family health insurance plan. So finally, just looking at the overall picture for our general fund, I've included our original budget for last year and what our revised budget for last year we predict will be. The middle column is our budget that you'll be asked to approve tonight. It is balanced with that transfer from the capital and contingency fund of almost $9.2 million. Looking out at the forecast for fiscal year '24, I tried to outline some of the items within the budget that are one-time or we'll see for 2 years and then they're going to drop off. The formula transition grant revenue, that will drop off in fiscal year '25. And then revenue that we receive from ESSER funds and the associated expenditures that we're funding out of ESSER, those will as well go away. So that really will hit in fiscal year '25. Fiscal year '24, you'll see with a $4.1 million deficit. Of course, as we're going into a legislative year, a lot can change. So really just be watching and seeing what happens with at the state level with our revenues. And fiscal year '25 does look a little bit more bleak without any modifications to our state funding formulas. That does have a large deficit, but again, it's very early out to be able to tell what will happen. But we do know that several of things that are affecting and impacting our budget this year are going to go away. And so we know that changes will have to be made, and hopefully we'll get some relief at the state level. I wanted to go over our fund balance. We have 3 areas of fund balance. Our general fund balance, we're estimating to be at $75.1 million at the end of this current fiscal year. Our unassigned in that fund is $70.5 million. This is about 19.2% of our general fund budget. The board policy goal to maintain 2 months of operating expenditures is 16.7%. So you can see that we are exceeding that requirement. In the debt service fund, we are estimating our fund balance to be $38.8 million at the end of this fiscal year. And that is high. That is 45% of our annual debt service payments, and your board policy is to maintain a 10% ratio in that fund. And then capital and contingency funds, we do anticipate a $61.4 million balance. Actually, that was as of July 31st. We know that for this current fiscal year, we're going to have to utilize some of that to cover the deficit that we'll see in this fiscal year. But that, as it stands right now, is at $61.4 million. So tonight, you will be asked to approve 3 funds budgets: the general fund, debt service, and child nutrition fund. And I have a 1-page glance at what that general fund budget looks like. So when you approve them, you're approving our expenditures on a functional level. So that if you look under expenditures, you'll see function 11, which is instruction, function 12, instructional resources. So once you approve that, we cannot during the year move budget funds within those categories without coming back to you for approval. So you'll see the fiscal year '23 budget of $366,737,000 and corresponding expenditures in the same amount. The debt service budget for next year has a total revenue of $83.5 million, corresponding expenditures of $85,660,000 for a deficit of $2.1 million, and that's with bringing our tax rate down to from 29 cents to 28 cents in that fund. have a little bit of information on the next slide that shows that. Again, that budget, the tax rates will be adopted in September. Our revenues did increase in here mainly due to our property value increases. Our expenditures have also increased, and that's due to the sale, actually the sale will happen tomorrow, of $32 million in bonds for the 2017 bond program. We do see a lot of savings. The district has incurred a lot of savings in this debt service fund due to being able to refund over the years and remarket some of our debt at lower interest costs. So we will reap savings in there for that. And then that budget deficit is just a planned budget deficit based on lowering that interest rate to use up some of that fund balance within that fund. We also are presenting the Child Nutrition Fund budget for you tonight for approval. The major change that we're seeing within the Child Nutrition Fund, this is a standalone fund. The major changes that are within the revenue categories, the local and intermediate source revenues are going up. We have ended the summer feeding program, which helped at some of our campuses. Was students were able to eat off of that during the year, and those revenues came in from federal sources. And those, with the ending of that program, the funds will be coming in locally as students pay for the school lunch and breakfast programs. We do have an increase in expenditures in that fund of food services of $982,500, and that is mainly due to salary increases. We also have these budgets have been hit with inflation, with cost of food products. So that makes up the bulk of those. And just a one-page review again of our tax rate. Our M&O tax rate overall in this budget is 4.51 cents less for tax year 2022. And our interest and sinking fund tax rate in this budget is based on 28 cents, which is a 1 cent decline. So that's a total decline in our tax rate of 0.0551 cents for the coming year. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Benzai, for that presentation. I'll open it up to our public. Are there any members of the community who wish to make a comment about the presentation that you just heard in regards to our budget or our tax rate? And seeing no takers, I will open it up to the board for any questions or any comment. Mr. Bowen?
Yes, I had a couple of quick questions. Looking at the function area, I wanted to kind of match up some of the changes in the function areas to what is presented, what is in the presentation. I mean, the biggest areas of increase are plant maintenance and transportation, which seem fairly obvious, right? Those are inflation-driven and just need-driven.
Did you say function, the plant maintenance?
Yes, so plant maintenance and transportation, are those?
Yes, so in plant maintenance, the largest increase was in our property and casualty insurance. That's comes out of that fund.
Okay.
We also had some increased compensation adjustments for custodial. So those two items make up the bulk of that increase.
And then what is the 926,000 increase in general administration?
So part of that is the contributions to salary expenses and retirement agreements that are occurring this year, and then the rest is just the 2% or 3% for the folks that are funded out of here.
Okay, so that's just kind of administration that happens due to the salary increases mainly? Like that's
Yes,
kind of where it
yes,
falls out? Okay.
Yes.
All right, that was all I wondered about there. And then on the debt service side, what was the reasoning behind choosing a 28% rate instead of a little bit lower? I think at 27.8, we would actually achieve no new revenue on the overall tax rate. So the average homeowner would see no change in how much they're paying. And then at 27 cents, we would still stay way above our policy in terms of our fund balance. So why stick with 28%? Or 28 cents?
So we did look at 27 cents, and bringing that down would bring, at 27 cents, we would go into that fund balance by about 5.1 million. I think that's absolutely something we can, look at. We have looked at it. We've actually talked back and forth, 28 or 27. Thinking about any future bond elections plays into that. If you want to, looking at that, a future tax rate, wouldn't require as large of an increase at the time. If you drop it now, you might, so there's factors that play into that. We still have time, especially with, we're getting some better property value numbers from Harris County, actually this week. And so, those are all factors to consider. We stuck with 28 cents, but 27 cents is feasible too.
Okay, thanks. And that's not something we're voting on tonight. That would be a month from now.
You're approving the budget tonight, but and it's built on a 28-cent tax rate. We can go down, and of course still fit within our budget. So
Okay.
You'll vote on that in September.
Thanks.
And I'll open it up to anyone else. Mr. Sanchez?
Ms. Spence, I thank you for walking through all of the different parts and pieces of information that make up our budget. And thank you for highlighting some of the things that are posing challenges to us as we look forward in the out years. I think at the highest level, some of what I heard you mention was decrease over time of the state's contribution and a certain level of uncertainty in the out years, not really knowing what that might be. Inflation definitely having an impact, and then ultimately decrease in student enrollment. We're seeing that impact as it plays out in the budgets. Based on all of the percentages that you highlighted, an allocation of our budget that goes towards student instruction, are there any other places in the process that we've gone through that you think would be something we should be considering as far as where else we could possibly make any additional reductions? It feels like we've gone through multiple iterations, and each year it gets harder and harder because of the level of reductions we've made over time to ensure that we minimize other expenses, but I just don't know if there's any other place we could possibly see that.
Well, looking back at this past year, I think we formed a committee, an internal committee, and we came up with several ideas that we bounced around with each other, and a lot of those are built into this budget, and a lot of those are one-time things, moving things from internal service funds, utilizing ESSER funds, the calendar change, those type of things. But they're buying us time so that we can continue to look at our budget. We've been very conservative with our enrollment and our attendance numbers based on what we've seen. So my hope is that our kids come back and they come to school every day and we get that attendance rate up, which would be good news for us. But I think going into the next year, we have to put everything on the table. As I mentioned, payroll costs are 89% of our budget. So we have to dig into the staffing and look at those levels, and everything is on the table. We have to, going into the future years, I'm glad that we've been able to utilize the ESSER funds strategically so that we have time to make some decisions. We're going into a legislative year, so my hope is that the state will give us additional funding that's not tied to any specific use, that they bring up that adjusted basic allotment for our students over the $6,160. So there's several things on the revenue side I hope we can get to happen, but as far as expenditures, it's almost 90% payroll, and so that's where we have to look at is staffing.
Yeah, thank you. I know throughout the year, this is something that you and the team look at very closely, and so while we may be presenting it today, I know there's a lot that's gone up to preparing all of this and to thinking about different scenarios, so thank you for that. Thanks to the team as well that supports that.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I know several people have heard me say this before, but it's not lost on me that last year we spent $371 million and we balanced the budget. And this year we are spending $366 million and we are not balancing the budget. And we've cut our spending even though we're in an inflationary climate. I cannot help but observe that we are doing our part, and we really need the state to do its part. And so if there's anybody there who has any input into that process, send the cards and letters to your representatives and state senators, because I don't know how much more blood we can squeeze out of the turnip. We've done admirable work here, and I think that should be recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Anyone else? Mr. Critchell?
Thanks for that presentation. So one of the things I'm looking at is, do you have a copy of the notice of public meeting that was going out today?
Yes.
You have a copy of it? On there where it talks about total appraised value, and this is kind of along the lines of Trustee Sanchez's comments about property values and taxes. So on there, it talks about the current tax year's appraised values. And I look at that and I see total appraised value of $501 million, total taxable values of 442. Is that what, so that we're clear, is that what's made up of our 100 square miles roughly of all of our taxpayers' property values?
Yes, that's
So the taxes that
combination.
they've paid into for school district taxes?
That's the property value of, within Galveston and Harris County, what it's been appraised at, and
The
the taxable
taxes.
value.
Of that, right?
It's a new
Rough-
property.
Taxable value.
New property, okay. So when we look at, like with House Bill 3 and their 2.5% cap, and people's property values going up over 10%, what would you say is kind of a recapture amount? Or do you have an idea on what that amount is that basically our local taxpayers are paying that goes to Austin, in essence, and then doesn't make it back here? Do we know what kind
So
of
we
number
we
that
don't pay recapture, but the way
Robin
that,
Hood kind
the
of,
way that the funding formulas work is that they lower our tax rate.
right?
So they have a maximum compressed tax rate, and the rate that was computed this year, I mentioned the 4.5% tax rate reduction. That's part of that formula. So they see these going up, and then they reduce our M&O tax rate by that amount. And this year, we hit the bottom of what we could have because of the amount of growth in our
Yeah.
values.
We're capped out, basically.
Yes.
Along with having what was the number, total expenditure reduction, $4.5 million. So we're,
Yes.
like Mr. Larson said, we're doing our part, as lean as we could be with all things considered. And, looking at the staffing reductions over the last 10 years with the new campus, it does seem like, that we're trying to do, and the district's trying to do what they can to minimize all expenses with reductions considered. And like Mr. Larson also mentioned, there's things in Austin that can be done to help us. In the past years, they've done the hold harmless, right? Federal has the ESSER funds. And so in order for us to try to find a way not to lose at least these 25 positions that are being funded right now with ESSER, and then any future growth would have to have change in Austin, right? To change those
Absolutely.
numbers.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
President, just a couple of points. I know every time we look at a new tax rate and budget, we're always talking about the amount of money that is required, the spending required because of federal and state unfunded mandates. And I know we've always asked, is there a way we can quantify that? And the answer always seems to be, no, that would be impossible. But I wonder if we could start, like, this year, we could look at what's not funded. That would be a great number to be able to show to our lawmakers, if it's possible. I'd just like to see that, if it's possible. The other thing I was going to ask, there's quite a bit of land that we're planning to sell in future years. Why not now? The market is really good.
So Paul Miller had worked at kind of accumulating some of that excess land, and I think most of it they had kind of planned to do 2 years from now, but we put some of it in this year's budget, and absolutely, if we can dig in there and sell it, I'm not sure if he's here, but that's something we can
Is that
definitely
something
look at.
we could amend the budget later to include land sales if we needed to? Okay, all right,
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
And thank you for the presentation, really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you once again, Ms. Benzak, for the presentation, and I want to thank the board for their comment. Before we move into closed session, I just want to ask if there was any other public comment in regards to the budget? Okay. I just want to make sure everybody had a chance to be heard. With that being said, the board will now move into closed session at 6:42. As authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.001 concerning purposes permitted by the Act, including 551.071 consultation with attorney, 551.072 deliberation regarding real property, 551.074 deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignments, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public employee, or to hear a complaint or charge against an employee. And the board will move into closed session at 6:43 p.m. Good evening. I call the board back into open session at 7:01 PM. And we will move right into the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge.
Well, thank you very much. And in order to lead us in the pledge, we have our Falcon Pass Elementary friends. If y'all would like to come forward, please. Ms. Jufrey. Oh, you are wonderful adults. We are going to have our Falcon Pass Voyager adults lead us in the pledge. Thank you. They know how to do this. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. Except for Falcon Pass. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Okay, and we just want to acknowledge Falcon Pass tonight. Our promise in Clear Creek ISD is to help students lead with integrity, and I cannot think of a stronger program, an example of our mission at work, than the Leader in Me program. For those that may not know, the Leader in Me is a version of the highly acclaimed book for leaders, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And Principal Monica Jufrey, a number of years ago, at that time went to Superintendent Greg Smith and said, I want to bring this initiative to Falcon Pass Elementary. It's been transformative for this group, and here tonight you have been recognized nationally for revealing the Leader in Me in all of your students. And we are so grateful for the initiative that you had, and we're proud to say that Falcon Pass has been recertified as a Leader in Me Lighthouse School, and only one of 600 of these Lighthouse schools recertified in the country, in the world, world. Yes, thank you. And you only earn that when you have shown the positive results that this campus has. We are so proud and so honored and many have followed in the Leader in Me footsteps, and have also we have a number of programs now on our campuses thanks to the initiative of Falcon Pass Elementary. So thank you very much. Congratulations. Okay, we have a few other schools to recognize tonight, and in keeping with really helping students to grow and to focus on their core values, which I know is what they have done at Falcon Pass Elementary, we have core values as a strong foundation for all of us in Clear Creek ISD, and this kind of grounds us in our actions as well as our words. Caring, citizenship, respect, responsibility, trustworthiness, and fairness are all part of who we are in the district. And we don't just say it, we do it. And we have several amazing schools that have absolutely put a lot of practices in place and have earned a National School of Character honor. This is a comprehensive approach that inspires students to model core values and model behaviors that will make them successful in not only school but in life. So we have administrators and staff from each of these schools, and we will have them come up and come forward and be recognized for a photograph. But I can tell you it takes an enormous amount of work to be a National School of Character, not just with the students, with the staff, with the community. Brings everybody together to earn this very prestigious award. So we're so excited tonight to first award this or honor Clear Lake High School with Principal Miss Liz Raska and her character cadre. Joining Ms. Raska is former principal David Drake, who had a little bit to do with it also. Okay, and the next school that we're going to honor, National School of Character, Clear Lake City Elementary School. Would you please come up? Principal Paige Hutchinson and team. Congratulations, Thunderbirds. Okay, our third school, Mossman Elementary, with Sarah Konachek and team. Please come on up.
No, I've been doing it.
Great. So the Mossman Night. Next, Ward Elementary. Ward Elementary, Jeff and Ricky and staff, come on up.
Everybody can kind of take a couple of steps. That's good. Okay, ready? Thanks.
And finally, Wedgwood Elementary. Buffy Johnson and her staff. President Cunningham, that concludes our celebrations for tonight. Thank y'all.
And always a good day when we get to recognize our schools and our staff and our kids. So, once again, let's give everybody a round of applause. Next, we will move on to item 8, our district update.
All right, well, thank you, President Cunningham. It has been an incredible start to the school year, and I'd like to share some highlights with you. We have a few pictures on the screen. Tuesday was our first day for what we call our transition grades, our pre-K and kindergarten, and then our 6th graders started at the intermediate school, and our 9th graders started at the high school. There were so many wonderful tales from the classrooms, but I think the images pretty well sum it up. And I really like the little one on the corner. They arrived eager and left pretty tired. So anyway, it was hard for the little ones to go that first week without a nap, but everyone had a great day, and we had some amazing feedback as far as, this is one of the things that came out of COVID for us, and it was a hit, and the teachers and students all really appreciate the opportunity for what they call a soft start. We're also very thankful for our law enforcement officers whose presence was significantly felt at all schools throughout this first week. In addition to Galveston County School Liaison Officers, we had support from many local municipalities and agencies such as Houston, Webster, Lakeview, League City, Kemah, Clear Lake Shores, Pasadena, Friendswood, and Harris County. So incredible, very much appreciate that and the coordination we have with our team. And it did feel like a new day because we were able to kind of traditionally walk students into the building. It has been 2 years since parents were able to walk their children in because of COVID. So it felt normal. There was excitement in the air. And we do have a short video to show you of the best moments of the first day.
And welcome, we are at Ferguson Elementary this morning. We made it a very special day for them, so the tension has come down, they're excited, we've had cheering coming in for them, we've had music coming in for them, our teachers have been waiting and helping them come in and get to their classes, so it's been a very exciting fun day for them so far. a day to get acclimated before everybody else gets here. This day has just been an incredible day for our freshmen because they have to keep this all to themselves. And I think it's so important to help with that anxiety of coming to a new campus, a huge campus that's way bigger than an intermediate. And so it really helps them feel more supported and feel more welcome because they have it to themselves and not to learn. You're here in the teaching program. Why did you decide you wanted to take this class?
I actually did this class. I took it last year. I'm a second student, and it was just a great experience to be able to work hands-on with kids that are younger than me as an actual teacher, designing lessons, giving lessons, and being able to work one-on-one with students.
What's your favorite part about this whole program?
It's probably getting those times with students and the days that we do teach lessons, because every month or so we teach our own lesson in the classroom, and that's the best opportunity that we can get.
How was this class preparing you for, I assume you want to be a teacher, how was it preparing you for that?
It's preparing me in a way to teach me, like, just even how to just approach the students, how to present things for them to understand different levels, different ways of learning, and being able to teach that wide range and nothing at this time.
I'm not exactly sure about the captioning there. So, interesting interpretation of teacher education training. But anyway, but I hope that you really appreciate the smiles and the joy on everyone's faces. And I'm telling you, it was throughout the buildings, you could feel that. So we, as of today, we have 40,341 students enrolled in Clear Creek ISD. It's about 100 students less than last year, so we are just about where we were. We anticipate enrollment going up a little bit after Labor Day, as it always does. So we're assuming that. And I'm also really pleased to share that despite the significant teaching shortages across the United States, we currently have just 7 teaching vacancies, and those are filled with qualified substitutes at this time. And last year, today, on this day, we had 13 teaching vacancies. So we are actually ahead of that, and that is a strong tribute to Dr. Pry and our Human Resources Department. We're very appreciative of the hard work that's gone on recruiting throughout the summer months and the spring to get quality teachers, and we feel very good about our strong teaching staff. So thank you, HR. Our focus this year is on our purpose, our people, our purpose, and our promise. And I want to first talk about our people. They're the heartbeat of CCISD. And just a couple of quick stories. You could see Beth Plowski. She's a new principal at Armand Bayou Elementary, but she's no stranger to Armand Bayou. If you look at her picture above her nameplate, this is her kindergarten photograph. And so she has come back to her elementary school, and on next to her, that's Principal Suzanne Jones. And she was so excited about a thank you card and some flowers and a picture she received from one of her former elementary students who started her year. She is now teaching this year at Ross Elementary under the leadership of Kelly Mooney, who was her assistant principal when she was a child in elementary school. So just full circle around, many others have come and were students in Clear Creek ISD are working as staff, and we're just so pleased that they have chosen to be professionals in our district. So my last great story is from a bus driver, a longtime bus driver, Michelle Foss. And Ms. Foss sent this email to the principal at Landell Elementary. And this is the little friend that she is so proud of. And I feel indulged, but I'd just like to read this. I must send praises about one student who rides my bus. His name is Brooks Johnson. He's a kindergartner. I picked up the students before a stop, and one new kindergartner was scared and crying as soon as we left the stop. We were trying to reassure him he was safe and he would be okay. I get to Brooks's stop, and I ask him if he would sit with the crying student. He did not hesitate. We proceeded through the rest of the route. The boy was still crying and scared. I could hear Brooks reassuring him and talking very softly to him. By the time we turned into the school, I didn't hear the little boy crying anymore. As they went to exit the bus, he was smiling. I was so impressed with Brooks, I made sure to thank him for his help. They walked into the school holding hands, happy and smiling. I've been a bus driver for 16 years in Clear Creek ISD, and I've never witnessed such kindness and bravery from one kindergarten to another. He made the first day of school so much better for one student and all the students around him. And I got to brag to his parents when I dropped him off at home that afternoon. He made my day much better also. So on day one, Ms. Foss and Brooks are modeling our core values, both of them. So we are excited about our opening, and we feel it's going to be a great school year. Thank you for letting us share a little bit.
Fantastic. It's stories like those that just kind of hit home that somebody's doing the right thing with their children. Also, wanted to thank my fellow board members who were able to get out and, take part in the opening of school. A lot of us, parents still have children in the district and things like that. So, very thankful to be able to, go participate and see the excitement on the kids' faces and everything. That just kind of helps what we do. So thank you, Dr. Engel, for that district update. Next, we'll move to community input. The purpose of community input is for the entire board to receive feedback from citizens. The board will hear the public comments, but will not respond except as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act. To respond to an inquiry by a member of the public or by a board member with a statement of specific factual information. A recitation of existing policy, or to deliberate a proposal to place a subject on the agenda for a subsequent meeting. Matters brought forth that require a response will be addressed by the superintendent as appropriate. All information received is subject to verification. Community input is scheduled for 30 minutes and has two forums. Those requesting to address the board in advance of the meeting are granted 3 minutes to address their topics, and those who sign up this evening prior to 6:30 are granted 1 minute. In a district our size, there will certainly be issues or topics which will understandably generate considerable interest from the public. It is important that members of our community be able to address the school board respectfully without disruption and without fear of intimidation from other attendees. On behalf of the board, the superintendent, and CCISD staff, we welcome your input during CCISD school board meetings. We request that everyone exhibit the respect and understanding each person rightfully deserves when addressing the school board during the public input portion of the meeting. And we will start off with Ms. Connie Perkins, followed by Kim Kissel. Good evening.
Okay, here we go. I'm not here for the benefit of my own children. We have already pulled them out of your godless, toxic environment, but many families are not able to drop everything to homeschool or pay teachers who are not playing along with whatever's going on here. Don't get me wrong, I'm not happy to be sending tax money your way and still have to pay for educational expenses. You as the board have a duty to protect this district and prevent abuse, fraud, and waste of those tax dollars, and we can clearly see you are not upholding these duties. I have many questions about the budget, but there are 2 key items I want to mention tonight. Why is Eric Williams going to be receiving a nearly $200,000 retirement package? The community strongly voiced their concerns prior to his appointment as superintendent. He proved those concerns to be valid and now has voluntarily resigned after less than 2 years of being vested in this district. How is this appropriate spending of those tax dollars? Wouldn't a better use of the funding be on security measures? Second, why was it approved to spend money from the district budget to defend your selected candidate in the recent election issues, but not her opponent? Now that we are on the topic of elections, I do not trust this district one bit when it comes to election integrity. There are still unanswered questions from the previous election and now some shady stuff happening within the recent one. If I'm wrong, prove it. And where are the regular meeting minutes? There should be 2 years of meeting minutes posted for the public to view. But as of today, the latest I can go back is July 24th of 21. And I know this is not the first time this has been brought up. I'm almost embarrassed to even say we live in this district with how California it is becoming. Just a reminder, this is Texas. This district is not promoting good mental health. It's preventing it. I'm hearing that teachers are asking their kids what their preferred pronouns are, and even considerations of litter boxes in the bathrooms. Students are being dumbed down because the school isn't focused on education anymore, but more on feelings and sexuality. Many teachers nationwide are either being fired or quitting for not wanting to follow along with this ridiculousness. If the current president follows through with allowing boys and girls bathrooms to receive funding for the free lunch program, will this district comply? You might want to check with the newly retired Williams on how well that went for him in Virginia. I believe there are still investigations pending. We fought against CRT and all that came out of it was a name change. Did you hope we wouldn't notice? So now what I want to know is, what are you all going to do to fix all this? If you are not going to be a representative of we the people you have been elected to do, you are proving you were selected for that seat for a reason, and you should be ashamed and resign.
Next, we have Ms. Kim Kissel, followed by Christina Edlin.
Good evening. My name is Kim Kissel, and I'm the president of the Clear Creek Educators Association. We're the local chapter of the Texas State Teachers Association and the National Education Association. The National Education Association's vision, mission, and value statement supports public education first and foremost, and I would like to present these statements to you as a local representative. We, the members of the National Education Association of the United States, are the voice of education professionals. Our work is fundamental to this nation, and we accept the profound trust placed in us by the public. Our mission is to advocate for education professionals and to unite our members and the nation to fulfill the promise of public education, to prepare every student to succeed in a diverse and interdependent world. Just like CCISD, our association has core values that define our mission. I would like to share 3 that I believe connect the district's mission and core values. The first is equal opportunity. We believe public education is the gateway to opportunity. All students have the human and civil right to a quality public education that develops their potential, independence, and character. Professionalism. We believe that the expertise and judgment of education professionals are critical to student success. We maintain the highest professional standards, and we expect the status, compensation, and respect due to all professionals. And we believe partnerships with parents, families, communities, and other stakeholders are essential to quality public education and student success. There is no higher mission for public school educators than those I have just stated. You can count on Clear Creek Educators Association to uphold the vision, mission, and core values of the National Education Association and to work with Clear Creek ISD to make them a reality for our students and teachers. I would like to thank you for your time and the opportunity to share our vision. We look forward to working together for our students' future.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Christina Edlin, followed by Amy Andrews. One more time, Christina. We'll move on to Amy Andrews. Good evening.
Good evening. So my 3 daughters, Lily, Chloe, and Kaylee, I just wanted to come to speak. I recently moved, and I put in for a transfer for the 3 of them, and it was denied. Last year, it was denied based on attendance originally, and their attendance wasn't what it usually was last year. My dad passed away July 31st of last year, and it was a very hard year. In January, my best friend passed away, and then February, we started having electrical problems in our house, so we had to move to Friendswood with my mom. I explained that to the principal, et cetera, and then I was told that there was no space available. All 3 of them are having a lot of trouble adjusting to a new school. My oldest cries every day before she goes to school, cries throughout the day, and when she comes home. I just feel it would be in their best interest for the transfer to stay at the school they were originally at because they went through enough emotionally last year, and this is kind of the icing on the cake for them. You want to say something? Okay.
So I think that we should go to Whitcomb because my sister, she knows some teachers there that help her out in class, and she has stuff that goes on with her learning and education. So what I think is best is for us to go to Whitcomb because, well, we know people there, and it's hard to adjust to a different school after we've been skipping like schools and stuff, going through different schools and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, that's all.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Andrews, and thank you to your girls for showing up tonight.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Next, we have Mr. John Cobaruvius, followed by Tobin Wood.
Excuse my appearance, I was clocking something else today, and I'm sure glad this frivolous lawsuit is over. As I said in the past couple of hearing meetings, I've been looking into campaign finance reform for the district, especially here, and what I learned is that because of the relationship with the state, there's no stopping of the unlimited money. And if y'all saw CNN recently, they had a story about 2 billionaires, not millionaires, billionaires, who are funneling money into school districts and putting people that they want onto the board. I don't think this is healthy for us. Unfortunately, there's nothing to stop it. Now, this is the reason that this frivolous lawsuit came around. They have the money to do it. And we got to be honest about this. I mean, let's be honest. It's coming from one group, and one group only, and everybody knows who that group is. And and this money from this organization is funding these suits. And when you couple this unlimited money with the recent racist dog whistles of CRT and the attacks on our gay family members and friends, and what you have is this group returning to the 3Ks. And what they are causing and creating is 3Ks: crisis, chaos, and confusion. And that's what that lawsuit was intended to do. You read it and read the last filing where they gave up and said, hey, we're going to drop our suit. Read that, and all they were doing was saying is that the district is incompetent for running election, which I don't believe is true. I think what happened is that you had an incompetent person running, and that person lost, like other people lose. And when you lose, you just like you teach your kids, when you lose, you shake hands and you move on. So unfortunately, I think this has to stop. I've been watching the funneling of money into state elections and to city council elections, and now I see it, the unlimited amount of money coming into CCISD. This is not healthy for us. It's not good for the kids. It's not good for the teachers. It's not good for the parents. Unfortunately, I don't know how to stop it, and maybe you guys do. I commend you for running the elections. I think they went very well. There was hiccups. There always are hiccups. There wasn't any fraud. There wasn't any corruption, spelled with a K. But I appreciate it, and I wish I could come here and say there was a solution to this, but I can't. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Tobin Wood.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tobin Wood, and I'm a student of Clear Creek High School. I represent CCISD Student Advocates, formerly known as CCISD Students for Safety. Since our organization started in 2020, we have won local, state, and national awards for our work with CCISD on COVID safety policies. But as the effects of COVID-19 pandemic on everyday school procedures lessens, our organization is continuing our work with district officials regarding school safety and other issues that concern the overall student body. One of the first things I would like to discuss is on the topic of student representation and CCISD, specifically at the district level. From the time Dr. Eric Williams took on his role as superintendent to the present time of today, faucets of communication from students to district leadership has been limited. Students like myself are frustrated, and we want to ensure our voices are heard and properly represented. So as CCISD searches for a new superintendent, we hope that the district administrators and school board members work to build a structure to ensure students are heard, not just this year, but for many years to come, even with changes in leadership. In local surrounding school districts, such as Fort Bend ISD, for example, they have two programs, which includes the Student Leadership 101 program and Student Voice Advisory Network, which both foster collaboration between district leadership and high school students to contribute to district initiatives and matters. Many school districts across the country have voting or non-voting student trustees or members of the board, which are elected on or selected students who represents the students represents the voices of students by serving on their school board and attending district meetings and events. Though CCISD has developed committees and forums in the past, none have allowed students to contribute to district decisions at such high level. But to ensure students are heard in the decision-making process, CCISD initiatives and subject matters, we request that the board consider such representation opportunities in our school district and explore ways for students to become more involved with the school board. Thank you for your time, and I hope we can work with you all in the coming weeks on this problem. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Mr. Wood. Next, we have Mr. Joel Velders, followed by Jackie Rasco.
I'm going to be reading prepared comments. I hope I don't sound too stilted, or it no doubt will take away some of the passion that I have for this issue. Thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to speak on this important issue of the very disappointing terms that were negotiated for Superintendent Emeritus Eric Williams. It was reported that he is to continue to receive his salary and benefits in his original contract beyond his resignation effective date, including a lump sum of nearly $200,000 for unused leave days. As a taxpayer responsible for partially funding this golden parachute, I'm outraged that compensation will continue through next January. This fiscal irresponsibility is especially egregious, knowing that he came to the district with a large amount of baggage from his previous time in Loudoun County, Virginia, and all of the controversy he has created driving his agenda here on the district. Many of my neighbors here will speak to the harm he has allowed on the lost innocence of the school children by emboldening the staff to teach and present supplemental curriculum that an overwhelming majority of parents would disagree with, including the age appropriateness of what the kids need to try to process regarding human sexuality that conflicts with most students' natural inhibitions and family taught values. It has also been reported that at this current time, he will continue to serve in a consulting role. So while much of the financial aspects are water under the bridge at this point, there is still danger that he will influence his policies and procedures that while they may have some original good intentions for minorities of all kinds, it will no doubt keep parents on edge with their need to critically examine all aspects of what is being taught, instead of focusing on just the quality of academics that we all appreciate is being presented to our students. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Velders. Jackie Rasco.
Good evening. My name's Jackie Rasco. I have two daughters at Ed White. By law, Texas schools only have to share curriculum with parents, not supplemental program materials. The Leader in Me program is an example of corporate indoctrination with religious concepts posing as character and leadership education. The district's use of the Social Emotional Learning, or SEL program, for Character Strong is another example of branding for promoting values based on CRT and other liberal ideologies. Last month, CCISD approved a $450,000 contract for the Leader in Me program, $450,000 of our tax-paying dollars. I cannot wrap my head around this cost of indoctrination. Leader in Me, yes, the headline sounds great. However, the overall program is being mindlessly taught to students starting at the elementary level. It's very repetitive, it's cult-like, and the children are taught repeating the same verbiage over and over like little robots, teaching them to adapt to these 7 habits and apply them at all times. It's mind-blowing how pervasive the breakdown of the teaching of fundamentals has become in the government schooling systems. Education should be conveying the knowledge from one generation to the next. The system is dumbing down our kids with these programs and the anti-American and the anti-God views. We need our kids to learn rational decision-making and understanding of materials, and we've lost all that. Our parents are supposed to be made up of our schools are supposed to be made up of academic content, letting the parents teach the kids our social education. And so the government-funded schools are teaching comprehensive sex education and SEL, the things that manipulate people's feelings. SEL isn't the engine that drives the train. Rewiring these kids' brains, rethinking attitudes, values, behaviors, and beliefs, and these mindsets are likely not going to coincide with the parental visions. It's twisted philosophy, and the government is advocating for comprehensive sex education, gender-fluid lessons, radical gender ideologies, and the LGBTQ agenda. I challenge every one of you sitting on the dais right now to write this down and go home and watch it. Actually, all Americans should go home and watch it. It's the documentary called The Mind to Polluters by Mark Archer. What we can do about it is raise awareness by bringing it here to the district, to the state, and to the federal level. We are the people, we are the taxpayers, and we do not want our children subject to the government's agendas. It's time to stand up and fight for what's right and what's American. Lastly, I've been talking about this for months, and I will not stop talking about this until there is a process in place. Why is there no vetting process for teachers, personal libraries, another big issue within CCISD, starting at the elementary level? Someone on the board, please put this on your agenda to having a process for this and holding teachers accountable. And I'll leave you with this. Education is best served by teaching students how to think and not telling them what to think. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Brian Dabney, followed by Yvette Hernandez.
All right, this is my first time addressing y'all during this setting. Appreciate the time. This past election by no means was perfect. Whether or not that was by any intentional action or this board's thoughts on the lawsuit that was, I guess, withdrawn recently. It's very concerning if you watch the video, which I know several of y'all were with the administrator that was over the election, with some of the irregularities with the mail-in ballots that had some issue that were never given a chance to be cured. And what time that was given towards contacting these people to potentially cure their ballots was incredibly insufficient, both in the few opportunities that they would have been able to come cure their ballot, but just the number of people that were even contacted that, hey, you have a ballot that needs to be cured. That in addition to the sorely lacking analytic information that this person should have known about election results, the amount of discrepancies and ballots that weren't voted all the way down. This is something that I've seen counties and states run much better. This is a school district. They should be focusing on educating children, not on managing elections, even if some people believe that, oh, it'd be much cheaper if we managed this election. All it did was put y'all in a position where y'all then spent money on an attorney to defend the results of said election. Time and effort that was argued by people on this board that were greatly dismissed at that time, when it would have been worthwhile to figure out, okay, why were these irregularities here? Was it enough to maybe change the election? Whether or not it could have or not, that leaves a lot of these residents in doubt as to your ability to administer an election that is free of distrust of its final result. Once people distrust the ability for their government to run an election fairly, without bias, society starts to crumble. And you can see that going back 2 elections ago, and even with this past election, regardless of what your political leanings are. It's incredibly unhealthy. And it's absolutely clown show for it to be happening at a school district level. So I do implore y'all to ensure that the next election is not run by CCISD. Thank you.
Yvette Hernandez, followed by Stephanie Sullivan.
Good evening and God bless you. I'd like to just start off with a prayer, as I see that you have a lot of decisions to make. So I'm just going to lift you up to the Lord right now. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this board here that you have put in this community, Lord. I pray that you would give them wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and discernment of your word, Lord, that they may do what is righteous and holy in your sight, Lord, that you may continue to put your protection over this community and the people that reside here, Lord. I pray, Father God, that you would give them the boldness and the courage that they need, Father, to do what is right in your eyes without regret. Father, that they would please you rather than man, Father. And that, Father, that they would not worry about the finances because you would take care of us, Lord. Help them to put faith and trust in you, Lord. Show yourself mighty and strong as we struggle, Lord, to live a life in this world that is not our home. Father, let righteousness, your righteousness, Father, abound in this place. I speak, Lord, I speak here today as a follower of Jesus Christ. I wasn't always a follower of Jesus Christ, but I see that there's a lot of transgenderism going around. And I just want to let you know that the power of Jesus is very powerful. The message of God's love is transforming. When I was 5 years old, I struggled with transgenderism. I hated my body. I hated the way God created me. And I believed that he had made a mistake. But truly, that feeling didn't come from myself. It came from rejection. I was rejected by my father and my mother. And I said, clearly, God, you've made a mistake. I need to identify with something that hasn't been rejected. And the only thing that was left was boy. I wanted the surgery. I wanted it all. And that was in the 70s. I'm thankful to God that after 7 years of this transgenderism that I was stuck in, I decided that I think it would be best to be a female the way God made me. And sadly, very soon after that, I was sexually abused, only adding more trauma to my life. And after that, it just went downhill with drugs and alcohol and attempted suicide, as I had no purpose in my life. But I know now that the Word of God says here, we've been created and only created to have a relationship with God, to love him and to love others, to show his mercy and his kindness, and that we would give grace to one another. Everybody is not in the same journey or in the same level that we are, but we should meet them with grace, pray for them, and do what is right in the sight of the Lord. And he will exalt you, and he will have the glory, and he must get all glory and honor and praise. And I say that Jesus Christ is the one who changed my life.
Next, we have Stephanie Sullivan.
I'm new, so. When I was in school, our superintendent carried around a spoon, and he would take it out of his pocket when he came to our schools and tell us to remind himself that he served us. Every time he said, we'd like, look at your spoon, let me see your spoon, he'd pull it out because he served us. You guys serve the students and the community. As citizens, we elect members to be fiscally responsible with our tax dollars. From what I have seen, you're not doing that very well. Former Superintendent Williams does not have a vested interest in the CCISD community, so we should not have a vested interest in his retirement. He voluntarily resigned. He did not fulfill his 5-year contract, yet the taxpayers are supposed to fund his retirement and give him a $200,000 severance. When teachers retire, who are the backbone of the school district, they do not receive anywhere close to that type of severance. He was giving a large salary that his poor performance in Virginia did not dictate. He got a car allowance, bonuses, and an expense account during his short 1.5-year tenure. Maybe 2 years, I've heard different numbers. He does not deserve to be additionally compensated. Our tax dollars should be used for our children in the support of our schools, not funding the retirement of someone who broke their agreement with our children. CCISD board members should do the right thing and stop all payments to Mr. Williams. Paying his almost $200,000 severance for unused leave is unacceptable. The CCISD board made a poor decision in hiring this man in the first place due to his past abysmal performance in Virginia. Your unanimous bad decision to vote to fund his retirement will be remembered during the next election cycle. Thank you.
Angie Farella.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Angie Farrell. I'm a pediatrician in the Webster area. I have addressed this board in the past on certain issues that have been very concerning to me and my patients. Social emotional learning, the Leader in Me program, is a cornerstone of a very harmful program. It's harmful because it's a building block for a community that opposes the core founding fathers' values and ideals, which is a Christian value that our country was built on. After all, one nation under God. Although I am a pediatrician and love to watch kids grow up, raised by amazing parents to be awesome adults, this program seems to be a very positive program until you deep dive. As the concepts grow along with the kids, it turns children away from their parents and their parents' views. Mental illness has skyrocketed over the last 2 years. The confusion and fear projected by the administrators, school board, and teachers, whether intentional or not, has propagated the truth in this data. Anxiety, suicides, sexual assaults, and now gender issues are causing great dysphoria in our kids. SEL and programs associated with these programs need to stop to restore the health of our children in the public schools. I have come to school board meetings in the past in order to advocate for the kids of our district. The school counselors are not mental health professionals. Their job is to fix school schedules and recognize programs and alert the parents of potential issues so that the parents can get help their children need. Schools are not medical homes. Schools and teachers should not dictate and propagate their own views, but should teach the 3 R's, the 26 letters of the alphabet: discernment, logic, and reasoning, not the false 28 genders. I went to medical school, and this is a fantasy, and it is my job to lead anyone out of this delusion of reality. My oath is first to do no harm. This also should be an oath of our teachers and our school administrators. Protecting the innocence of our children should be paramount to all. Working with children, especially at the elementary level. Thank you.
And last, we have one one-minute speaker. That's Ms. Emily Crone.
Good evening. My name is Emily Crone, and I am very proud to say that I have a brand new kindergartner in CCISD. I'm here for 2 reasons. The first is to sincerely thank everyone who works for the district, and I'm just going to blow through this because I only have a minute. Now that I have a child in this school district, I truly understand why CCISD has made our community a destination and preference in the greater Houston area. My son is a bright, fun, and loving kid who is also plagued by ADHD and anxiety. Because of this, I worked with CCISD to get an IEP in place in preparation of his matriculation in August. Unfortunately, he's already struggling, but the help and support of CCISD employees gives me immense hope that everything will be okay. And just to name a few of those amazing people, because they deserve all the credit: Mrs. Ante, Ms. Gilliam, Ms. Rodriguez, Principal Smith, Dr. Sarah Sifford at the Evaluation Center and all her staff, Penny Sweetie, Amanda McLaughlin with the Bay Area Alliance for Youth and Families, and everyone else, thank you. And vote for Emily and Robert for Dancing with the Stars in September. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you. It's not easy. Thank you to our student, Tobin, for coming up and speaking. It's not easy to get up here in front of, the community, in front of audiences that are watching us, live stream. So your comments are greatly appreciated, and we thank you for, taking the time to address those issues. So, with that being said, we will move to our action item on closed session.
I would like to move,
I would like to move to accept the superintendent's recommendation for Arturo Gonzalez for Director of Network and Technical Services.
And thank you, Ms. Cheka, for that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cottrell. Seeing no comment, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. And that motion carries unanimously. Next, we will move on to our consent agenda. Would anybody wish to pull any items? Seeing nothing, I will call for a motion.
Okay, Mr. President.
Mr. Bone.
I move adoption of the consent agenda.
Thank you for that motion,
I'd like to second that.
and thank you for that second. Mr. Larson, seeing no further comment, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please raise your right hand. And that motion carries unanimously. And we will move on to, looks like item B, consider approval of agreement for the purchase of attendance credit. Good evening, Ms. Benzai, and good to see you, Mr. Kohlenberg.
Good evening.
Good evening. So tonight we have a request to consider an approval of an agreement for the purchase of attendance credit netting Chapter 48 funding. So Mr. Kohlenberg is going to provide information.
Okay, this agenda item we've been doing probably for 12 or more years, and it basically relates that our wealth for ADA is about $57 versus the state Tier 2 level of $49.28, which puts us in a gap district range. And because of that, we don't pay any recapture to the state, but we are required to do this agreement each year. I equate it to crossing our T's and dotting our I's. It's kind of odd, just because we don't actually owe the state. And it would be on the consent agenda, except that it requires specific, very long wording in the recommendation, because we have to, when we send this agreement in, I have to include the board minutes that show that as well. So I'll try and answer any questions. It's kind of an odd item, but
I'll open it up for any questions or comment. Seeing no question or comment, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Trustees for the 2022-2023 school year delegate contractual authority to obligate the school district under Texas Education Code 11.1511C4 to the superintendent solely for the purpose of obligating the district under TEC 48.257 and TEC Chapter 49 subchapters A and D, and the rules adopted by the Commissioner of Education as authorized under TEC 49.6. This includes approval of the agreement for the purchase of attendance credit netting Chapter 48 funding.
And thank you. That was a mouthful, Mr. Bowen. I'll call for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Cheka. Seeing no further comment, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? And that motion carries. And next, stay right there. We have item C, consider approval of the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget.
Okay, so this is the final step in adopting our budget tonight. We actually are asking you to approve 3 budgets, the general fund, debt service, and child nutrition fund, and we have put all of that information into a one-page budget summary that I have above. And these are, as you know, we're required, I mentioned earlier, to adopt the budget by functional category within the expenditures. So this is listed out that way, and I'll be happy to answer any further questions about the budget.
And I'll open it up to any question or comment. Mr. Bowen?
I guess I'll just make a quick comment. I really do see, and I think we probably all can see, that this budget is a starting point. There are a lot of changes that are going to have to be made over the next several years, I think regardless of what the state does. I hope the state provides enough additional funding to close some of the gaps that we see in the out years, but we have to prepare as though they won't. And so I think we really are going to have to spend the next year digging deep and seeing what's really important to us and what we have to change in order to avoid the, it looks like $40 million shortfall we have coming in 2025. So with that being said, I mean, I support moving forward with this budget, but there's a lot more work that has to be done, I think, as we all know.
And thank you for that comment. Mr. Bowen, any other further comment? I just wanted to thank you once again, Ms. Benzai, in the department. Once again, you know, the budget presentation in this didn't just happen, you know, overnight. It's something that, you know, your department has been working on even since last year, you know. So we appreciate the diligence and, you know, the willing to, I know we've asked for certain information in regards to personnel issues and things like that, looking at where, you know, some possible cuts could be made here and there. So we appreciate that information and the work that your department does. So without any additional comment, I'll call for a motion. Mr. Sanchez?
Mr. President, I move that the board accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the fiscal year 2022-2023 general fund, debt service fund, and child nutrition fund budgets by function as presented.
And thank you, Mr. Sanchez, for that motion. Do I have a second?
You have a second.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Seeing no further comment, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your right hand. And that motion carries unanimously. And next, we will move on to our last presentation. We have Twinkle Toes, Dr. Bayar coming up. You know I couldn't let that go.
Broken ankle, for those of you who are wondering. Mr. President, Board of Trustees, thank you for this opportunity to present the 2022-23 superintendent targets. We greatly appreciate the approval of these targets in March of this year, and for giving us the opportunity to bring forward a revision. And we'll talk about just how that's effective and how that's actually incorporated within these targets. First of all, our guiding documents. Are coming right up, maybe. Our guiding documents are threefold: the community-based accountability, our strategic plan, and new for this school year, which is a change, is to also include and incorporate our guiding principles for the year with a focus on our people, our purpose, and our promise. When we align those targets together with our guiding documents, it really helps us to achieve our mission, which is to ensure each student achieves, contributes, and leads with integrity. Our strategies in our strategic plan will help us with this alignment. There are 5 strategies, and as we present the superintendent targets, we'll show the alignments to the strategies. Along with the community-based accountability pillars, there are 7, and you'll see those as they're aligned to the targets. Purpose of our targets, the purpose of our approach is to seek alignment with our strategic planning and expectations. We promote coherence among our stakeholders and shared understanding about the purpose and nature of our work. And we stay open to discovering new and better options. which is why I'm happy to be bringing forward revision to these superintendent targets. As we go through the year and as we learn, this iterative nature of our targets allows us to learn from the implementation, to revise, and to grow so that ultimately we reach that top flag and help our students ultimately achieve in school. We're using a process for monitoring the metrics, looking at fidelity, effectiveness, and impact. With fidelity, it's the extent to which initiatives or changes are implemented as intended and planned. Effectiveness, or the extent to which changes are implemented and are producing the desired effect. These are the changes in our staff. And then ultimately, the impact is the extent to which long-term and sustained changes occurred in our target population, which are our primary clients, our students. So fidelity is, did we do what we said we would? Effectiveness, are we seeing the changes in our staff as a result of what we did? And ultimately, the impact are changes in students as a result of what we did. When we presented and when you approved the targets back in March, we had these 6 targets, including first-time instructional best practices, and mental health resources and supports. We are removing the instructional best practices and combining that into the student academic growth, because those are really instructional tools and practices that our professionals engage in the professional learning communities work through the best practices and determine what best practices are important for lessons. And then the mental health resources and supports are a rebranding. And so we still have the original 4 targets. We have added in the place of the target that we removed with employee culture and engagement, and we have rebranded the mental health and wellness as physical and emotional safety. We have also aligned each of the targets to the most important area, whether it's people, purpose, or promise, just to show our alignment with our work this year. The first target area is budget development. There is no change to this target. We are aligning this plan to our to promise, and that is our promise to align the budget to our strategic plan to fulfill our mission. The next target that we are bringing for consideration to remove is the instructional best practices, because that is tied into the PLCs in student academic growth. In student academic growth, there is just a additional change, and that is with the impact. We have tied this to promise to fulfill our mission, but the impact is the key here. And what we've added is for STAR, the percentage of students who show growth in a reading or ELA assessment will increase from 80% to 82%. And then for mathematics, the percentage of students who show growth will be increased from 71% to 80%. The key to this is that we want all students to show growth throughout the year and to show that growth by the end of the year. Personalized learning, first-time instruction personalized learning is our next target area. There is no change to this target. We did align this target to our people. One of our core beliefs is respect, and we respect our teachers in providing them effective professional learning to provide the best personalized learning instruction for teaching and learning for our students. The next target area is on literacy development, and there is no change to this target as well. We did align this also to our people, again with the respect that we have for our professionals, for our teachers as professionals, engaging that professional learning to better teach literacy with scientific reading principles that they're learning throughout the year. The new target area that we're pleased to present with knowing the work that's ahead of us is employee culture and engagement. Of course, this is tied to our people with our staff members. For our fidelity metrics, we are conducting listening sessions with employee stakeholder groups, as well as launching an employee-only mobile app to commit to transparency, communication, and response to listening sessions. For effectiveness, and again, it's effectiveness because this is evidence that we have actions that have changed led to a change in effectiveness with our staff. So we have committed to having employees participating in the Superintendent's Communication Council. We are revitalizing that for this coming school year, and I know we look forward to hearing from our employees and their feedback. We respond to listening sessions through shared, those responses will be shared and communicated with the Board of Trustees, administrators, and all district staff. And finally, the 2023 Employee Workplace Survey results will be at the same or higher results than in 2021. We will, of course, set our expectations much higher than that, but we're going to start with above 21. And the last target area is in physical and emotional safety. There is an update with this, with the immense work that our district has been engaged in with Mr. Palazzi and Mr. Miller and our Safety and Security Department, along with all of the wonderful affiliations and supports we have with our officers in all of our counties and cities. We've added in a couple fidelity metrics. 100% of campus exterior doors will be programmed with a door ajar alarm system, and 100% of school security plans will be completed and provided to first responders. For the effectiveness, greater than 75% of spring survey participants will report their school or district as a safe and supportive place to learn. So those are the updates to fidelity and effectiveness metrics, and then in the impact metrics, there are a couple updates there, or additions. 80% of end-of-year surveys submitted by our stakeholders will indicate the well-being of students is supported by the campus or district. And there will be a decrease in student referrals or time spent at ClearPath Alternative School for non-mandatory placements from last year. And really that's focusing on the prevention and intervention of some of those non-discretionary placements, such as could be vaping and substance abuse. We want to decrease what goes into it, but not necessarily change how our administrators are responding to consequences. So through the passage and the approval of the superintendent targets back in March, that has really allowed our campuses to focus in on the superintendent targets as a significant part of their planning this summer. And with the changes we are presenting tonight, that will allow our campus administrators to continue the planning over the next month. So at this time, I'll welcome any questions or comments.
And thank you for that presentation, Dr. Bayard. I will open it up for any comment or questions.
I'll go first. I think this is great. I know you and your team have worked really hard on this, and I really like adding the employee culture part of it. I think that's, the teachers are our backbone, and so bringing them into that, I think that's a really good move. I also think maybe looking forward, accompanying some, bringing in some of that student comments and collaboration as well, I think would be a good thing that we can look forward to in the future. So I really like the changes that you have.
Yes, ma'am. It might not be a superintendent target, but we very much value the student voice. Student voices are just as important as our staff voices. They are our ultimate clients and stakeholders.
Mr. President, thanks for the presentation. On slide 17, our goal is to, for the 2023 employee workplace survey results will be at the same or higher than 2021. And that's because our numbers kind of dipped in 2022. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, they did dip.
Okay.
We saw a dip in employee culture and engagement. Particularly in engagement, we saw a dip from 57% in 2018 down to 35% in 2022. That engagement is impacted by loyalty, commitment, and motivation. And so we are committed to listening, responding, and taking action to support our employees.
Terrific. And I think that's wonderful, and I think we've already seen evidence of that being put into practice to let our employees know that, yes, we really want to hear what you have to say, we care what you have to say, and we will try to implement as much as we can of what you feel makes a better working environment, district, everything. So I really commend the administration on this focus. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Larson?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that these targets have moved, they've changed, and to me, this reflects that we're adapting to their changing circumstances. And I think that was very timely and very needed. And I appreciate the direction this has all gone. I think it is, when I look over the list of 6, these resonate with me a lot more than the old list did. And I think they're a better alignment with where the district has been and where it needs to go. And I appreciate all the hard work that's gone into it.
Thank you. We look forward, and we're up to the challenge.
I just want to say, Ms. Davis's comments and Mr. Larson's comments coupled with Trustee Cheka's comments kind of stole my thunder. But I wanted to thank staff and cabinet to, pivot and address some of these issues, tie in, our theme for this year. And as school kind of opens up and as we, get back to our new normal, to take a look at that and actually see what we need to address, what we need to stress in terms of, our staff, our teachers, everybody that works within CCISD. So I wanted to thank y'all for putting in that extra time and effort to revisit these, although we had originally, approved these back in March. But I think it speaks volumes that, everybody took a look at that. So thank you. And I wanted to thank, our trustees for their comments as well. So thank you. If there's no additional comment, thank you for the presentation, Dr. Bayard.
Thank you. I know I had the voice tonight, but I want to thank Cabinet and Dr. Engel. It is a full team effort, and thankful to be here.
Thank you. And seeing no further business before the board.
We need to vote on that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I was jumping the gun.
Thinking.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Sanchez.
Mr. President, I move that the board accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the revised 2022-2023 superintendent targets as presented.
And thank you for that motion, Mr. Sanchez, and thank you for keeping me straight. Do I have a second?
You have a second, Mr. President.
All right. I'm going to get Ms. Davis in there. Thank you, Ms. Davis, for that second.
I'll take it.
I saw her. So thank you for that second. Seeing no further comment, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? And that motion carries unanimously. And so thank you, Dr. Bayard, for that presentation. And Cabinet, thank you once again. Seeing no further business before the board, I will adjourn us at 8:25.